If you've clicked on this video, you're probably a Mazda MX-5 person or a loyal Chasing Cars subscriber. And if you're either of those things, you'll want to know that I too am a Mazda MX-5 fan, which would make today's video quite an interesting one because while this is an ND Mazda MX-5, we've seen plenty of those on Chasing Cars before. The ND has actually just had probably its most interesting update in its lifespan, excepting when the 2-litre engine was upgraded to give it a higher rev cutout and a more characterful tune. What's happened for 2022 for the Mazda MX-5 is the addition of a new feature called Kinetic Posture Control, or KPC. And basically, it's a new system for the MX-5 which is designed to make this car roll less. Now, I've got a bit of an MX-5 body roll kink, so there is that. I don't mind the fact that these vehicles roll more than something like a Toyota 86 or a Subaru BRZ, but a lot of people didn't like the sort of excessive body roll that you do get on an ND1 and ND2 Mazda MX-5 on stock suspension. So enter KPC. What does it do? Well, it isn't torque vectoring by braking, but it's similar. Basically, the system detects when there's load on the car when cornering hard and brakes the inside rear wheel, whether you're on or off the power. And today, I've decided to bring the ND MX-5 here to Haunted Hills near Moe in Victoria, a really tight technical hill climb track where we can absolutely tell the difference between KPC and no KPC. So I've got the previous version, the 2021 MX-5, I've got the 2022 MX-5. In fact, this one here is the new color for 2022 called Platinum Quartz. It's kind of like a light champagne gold. It won't be to everyone's tastes, but some people will probably like this very much. There's also the terracotta interior on this GT-RF model, which is about 50 grand. Now, this is one way you can specify your ND MX-5. Here's another. Now, this is the way I would go. As cheap as possible. Sadly, my favorite, the 1.5 litre engine, has been deleted, so this 2 litre Roadster manual is the new entry-level MX-5. It's just over $37,000 before on-road costs. It's plain and simple, sitting pretty in machine grey though. We've just got black cloth seats, but still a nicely finished interior. You still get navigation and all those bits and bobs. As light as possible. This is the way I do it. But anyway, that's enough talking to introduce the concept of the vehicle. Let's quickly check out the interior of the MX-5 and then head out on track and on road to see KPC in action and remind ourselves of why this car is so good to drive. Before we get started, hit subscribe down below and the notification bell. Now, we've reviewed quite a few NDs on Chasing Cars, so I'm just going to point out what's new in this interior and refresh ourselves on a few of the things that we've seen before. So the first thing is this terracotta interior color. That's new for 2022 for GT models. It's the alternative to black. Now, it's quite a rich brown, this color. It's probably what I would opt for. It's a little bit more interesting than an all black interior, but of course there is the option, and a lot of people are gonna prefer a monochromatic look in here. Now, you do get terracotta stitching on the doors, but there is just white stitching on this little steering wheel, which continues to be good to hold, thin rimmed, not stupidly thick like a BMW M wheel. It's really nice. Now, this car's an automatic, so we've got paddle shifters behind the steering wheel as well. There's a fairly even split of manual and automatic sales here in Australia for the MX-5. Now, the type of MX-5 I'm sitting in is the retractable fastback, which has been very popular since it was introduced. Just gives you that hardtop look, a little bit more security, I guess, but of course there's more weight up top as well, which is one of the reasons why I just prefer the simple, light, basic, soft top that evokes the idea of the NA MX-5. In terms of tech, you've got kind of everything you need, nothing you don't, is sort of how I would put it. It is starting to feel a bit dated, so we've got a 7-inch MZD Connect screen up here on the dash, Mazda's old infotainment system. It works fine. We've got a dial here between the seats for driving it. The graphics look a bit old and a bit immature, I guess, but it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so I would just use that, plug your phone in, leave a little cable in the car, and you'd skip the Mazda software altogether. We do have a nice, clean, analog speedo and tacho up here, a color trip computer, that's all okay, but keep in mind there's no digital speedo, so you are going to need to keep a close eye on your speed. Automatic shifter down here, heated seats in the GT, that's something that you would want. Climate control, but just simple dials, really like that, that all works super well. In terms of practicality, it's a Mazda MX-5, so I hope you weren't expecting much, but we do have these cool cup holders which you can detach. You can put one down here in the passenger footwell if you prefer that. Little tray ahead of the shifter, box between the seats as well. No glove box, so you're going to be using that box. We'll take a quick peek in the boot, but ultimately this car is about maybe a weekend away with a couple of soft bags. That's really about it. Next up, let's talk about owning and buying a Mazda MX-5. Servicing for this vehicle is done every 10,000 kilometers or 12 months, so a little bit more frequent than some vehicles on the market, but for a sports car like this, it's not too bad. Those first 5 years will set you back $1,755 in scheduled maintenance. Fuel consumption for the Mazda MX-5, over all the tests we've ever done with the ND, we generally get about 8 litres per 100 kilometres, which for a light car is, I guess, kind of a lot, but again, I think you can forgive it because you do want to rev out that engine heaps, as we'll come back to on road and track. In terms of insurance, in the last 12 months, the median budget direct customer spent $757 to comprehensively insure a new Mazda MX-5. Everybody's situation varies and your premium will vary based on things insurers take into account, like where you live, who drives the car, and how you garage the car. And the warranty is 5 years with unlimited kilometers. So, are you ready to take the next step on a Mazda MX-5? If at any point you feel like you've heard enough in today's video, I've dropped a handy link down below as a pinned comment where you can click through and organize a test drive of the MX-5. You can download a features brochure to see what all of the grades have. You can look at all of the colors on the new MX-5, not just this new Platinum Quartz. And you can also rewatch our video and read our written review. So find that down below this video. So with all of those preliminaries out of the way, we can now jump onto the road and track to see how the 2022 MX-5 drives. Okay, Haunted Hills. Let's head out in the 2022 MX-5. Still driving that Auto RF GT. Probably isn't the first spec you think of when you think of a track special MX-5, but that's okay because they're kind of all already set up for this kind of track. Haunted Hills is awesome because it is, like, look at you'll be able to see the gradient change on camera, I'm sure of it. And it's tight, it's technical. You can really chuck a car like the MX-5 around, even in the heaviest possible spec, like this RF GT Auto, because even the heaviest ND MX-5 is still pretty light. Me though, I'd be hitting up the 2-litre roadster manual, kind of the closest in substance to the NA, which I guess is sort of the goal, isn't it? One thing we loved about the ND when it first came out was it gave you this kind of modern interpretation of the MX-5 with a fair bit of safety tech for a very, very similar curb weight to the NA. And frankly, the ND has only gotten better over its lifespan. ND2 brought some changes to the manual gearbox. It liberated the top end of the 2-litre engine. It never quite got to the same level of character as the 1.5, in my opinion. But we'll shed a tear now for the 1.5, which is now gone actually. No more 1.5, 2 litres is the only choice, so 135 kilowatts of power and 205 newton meters of torque. Modest torque, but more than enough in a tiny car like the MX-5. It's a quick car. It's fairly quick in a straight line, particularly the manual, but point to point, it's a really, really quick car. This is a weapon on a mountain road or on a track like this one. But we're here to talk about KPC, so I might come back to the powertrain ride and handling stuff, other ride and handling stuff in a minute. So KPC, Kinetic Posture Control, main change for 2022 for this vehicle. So we're talking about a technology that can sense from a bunch of inputs from the car when roll is starting to get a little bit wayward, and it brakes the inside rear wheel. Simple as that, really. It works whether you're on or off the throttle. And today I've actually been doing back-to-backs in a 2021 MX-5 and this car, both as a auto and a manual. It takes like 2 corners at Haunted Hills to realize the effect of KPC. It's really, 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 really obvious. Keeps the car, I'm going to say 25% flatter in the corners, which is a big jump. There's still, some body roll, which is an inherent characteristic of a Mazda MX-5 on factory suspension, but it's considerably suppressed. It's at a point where I still feel like Mazda are kind of capturing the essence of this car, which does have a bit of a roll characteristic to relieve the tyres and reduce understeer, but it is less pronounced, it is less wayward, body control is definitely better and noticeably better on a taxing circuit like this one. So on the whole, it's a net improvement, I reckon. Thankfully, the rest of the package has been left pretty much untouched, which is great. So we've still got beautiful, communicative, direct, mid-weighted steering, no silly electric features where you can change the steering weight or anything like that, just one good weight. We've still got nice, supple, single mode suspension. Again, same story, no customizable modes for the suspension, one good mode. And every time I talk to a vehicle dynamics engineer, they always tell me one good mode is better than multiple adaptive modes. We can debate that point till the cows come home, of course, but I kind of see what they're talking about. Still this really beautiful, chuckable, light nature to the dynamics. Fantastic ratio in the steering, awesome visibility forward. We're sitting basically over the rear axle, so we feel it all through our butt, through our hands. Yeah, great visceral experience. It's not a fast car, but its limits kind of are set at the right point for a vehicle with this much power, so you can have a lot of fun in an MX-5 at the speed limit. You can't really say that about many cars, including a whole bunch of current gen hot hatches, which are just too fast now to be able to exploit the best from them. That's why I kind of love the MX-5, 86, BRZ, all that sort of thing. You can let me know your thoughts down below, of course. For a lot of people, more is more, and that's fine. Now, other choices, manual auto. Look, Mazda's auto isn't a bad one. It does the job, 6-speed torque converter. You can probably see and hear there's about a half-second delay from pulling a paddle to getting a shift. This is not a dual clutch, it's not that quick. It's fine though, it's bearable. If you can though, go for the manual in the MX-5. Absolutely terrific manual. In fact, this is probably a good time to switch over to just the basic roadster manual, and we might go do a road loop in that car and just have a few comments on the gearbox. So, quickly jumping onto some great roads down here in Gippsland in the manual MX-5. So just the base manual 2-litre roadster, cloth seats, 37,690 if I have that correct. This is how I'd have an MX-5. The gearing is really different in the manual compared to the automatic. You notice that, and you notice the absolutely beautiful quality shift in this car. I think almost anyone could run this as a manual, even if you think you're a bit rusty, even if you haven't owned a manual for a while, even if you're new to manual, because the MX-5 is just so forgiving. The engine revs really fast in this car. It's so responsive. So it doesn't lug like a lot of modern turbocharged cars with manual gearboxes do. That makes it a lot easier to drive because you can really get those revs up quickly. The clutch is mid-weighted, the bite point is really obvious, and the pedals are really close together, so heel towing in this car is much easier than on virtually anything else I've ever driven, to be honest. It makes any average manual driver feel a lot more skilled, which is nice because the best cars have dynamics that complement their drivers. Now this is a lot lighter than that sort of platinum quartz auto I was driving before. And the RF's additional weight is of course up high, and then there's the weight of the automatic transmission. We've gone without both of those things. So it just feels livelier, quicker. It's the same seat, just with cloth upholstery. It's a shame you can't get the Recaros Mazda were putting in some top-end MX-5s a few years ago. But, you know, the standard ones, while they're lacking lateral support, you can probably see me getting chucked around a bit here, they're bearable. Now here on road, on a really curvy bit of road, this is a really nice piece of tarmac. We can again feel the Kinetic Posture Control. I think you can feel KPC a lot more than you can Mazda's own G vectoring control and GVC Plus that has been added to the range in the last few years. It's really quite noticeable. As I said on track, I think it's a 25% difference in roll characteristics. So a big change from the 2021 car. So there's lots of different permutations of MX-5. You can really choose your own adventure. KPC is an improvement, but this is how I'd have mine, nice and simple. Quick, free-revving manual, just like that. Safety features, I'll just quickly run over. We've got a lane departure warning. We've got AEB, reversing AEB as well, which is really impressive, and standard blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert as well. So those are my impressions of the updated 2022 Mazda MX-5. Put simply, you can feel the KPC. It does give this car a slightly higher limit in terms of its dynamic capability, and I think on the balance of the feedback that we've received over the lifespan of the ND, most people are going to like the addition of this feature. But the Mazda MX-5 is still a Mazda MX-5, and that's the beauty of this vehicle. 33 years of history, from the NA behind me to the ND 2.5, I guess we'll call it, over my left shoulder, goes to show that this car is still true to what it's all about, and that is happy motoring. Like, in a world where it seems like every single new car that launches is like the next hyper-aggressive, angry, masculine SUV, a vehicle like this is such a refreshing palate cleanser. Even though the MX-5 doesn't sell in quite the same numbers as it used to, I really commend this vehicle to you. If you want something that's simple, rear-wheel drive, and it'll just make you smile every single day, there aren't that many cars that are on the market. There is the new BRZ, there's the forthcoming GR86, there's the Mazda MX-5, and of course there's hot hatches as well, if you don't mind front-wheel drive. All these vehicles are affordable and fun, and just something a little bit different, so please consider, I guess. Keen to know your opinion, let me know down below the video. Hit that subscribe button while you're down there and the notification bell. And as always, thanks for watching Chasing Cars.